We're here to empower high-income earners to gain back control of your time through financial independence and stop trading your time for money and start letting your money work harder for you.
And hey, if you want to meet other high-income earners on their FIRE journey, join our High Income Earners FIRE Facebook group. Every month, we'll have guest speakers and we'll share about what our team is currently working on and allow you to share what you are working on with other high-income earners.
Welcome back to High Income Earners FIRE podcast. I am your co-host, Cody Ye. I don't have to say again, Eileen Pratt is absent, doing better things. But today we have a really interesting guest. I'm not going to mention a name yet, but he's a coach or affiliate coach for one of the biggest real estate investing community in Canada and US. And before he went full-time on real estate, he was actually a director for alcohol and beverage company and well-established. And now he has business helping people building their business plan development. And he also has $30 million under asset management in the real estate market. So without further ado, I want to welcome Mitch Parmasar.
Thank you, Cody. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to chatting with you this morning.
So can you let our audience know a little bit about your journey of how do you start going full-time or even before you go full-time in real estate? What was that life like of 15 years as a director and
Well, alcohol? That's quite an interesting journey on its own because, most of us, as you could appreciate, we come into the 9-to-5 world because you need to have that income. You need to sort of, get that part of your life going in order to provide for your family. So most of us join into that 9-to-5 world. For me, it's been an incredible journey. I actually started out when I got into the beverage alcohol business. I actually started out with brands like Crown Royal, Smirnoff, Bailey's, Guinness. The company at the time was called Diageo. And I actually was in the finance role. But the cool thing with companies of that caliber is that they really promote people and they really want to get you growing and developing. So I was fortunate enough to get out of that environment on the prodding of the president of the company and get into the sales world to learn and grow into the business. So I did sales for many years. Then I went into the marketing world. Then I came back into the commercial planning world. So I really got a rounded experience for the business and what brands like these, how they do it and what they can grow. The commercial planning role was quite interesting because it was actually created for me to be able to excel and to bring everything together. And what I mean by that is we were literally, helping the sales team, what we call business units, establish goal setting and planning around their business so that they could deliver plan. And that to me really brought everything together because suddenly you were working with the supply chain, you were working with the buyers at the boards, you were like literally the heart of the business, everything connected through that role. And that really enabled me to see quite clearly how that business works. Later on moved on, as we continue to grow and develop, I ended up into a Quebec wine agency, wine and spirit agency. And the role in that job was literally to grow the Ontario market, which is in Canada, it's the biggest beverage alcohol market for the country. So really had an incredible time working as sales and marketing, really bringing that development together. And while I was doing that, I also had the passion, as most of you here, probably most of your audience is, you still need to grow further. Like the job still has limitations because your salary is your salary. You can work as hard as you want. That's the maximum you can gain. But in terms of experience, second to none. The training and development and the exposure, the travel, absolutely worthwhile. But at some point in time, if you have that urging where you really want to grow substantially and you want to get into an income level that is really going to give you the luxuries and the lifestyle that you truly desire, then you have to do it on your own and you have to find a vehicle that can get you there. And many people choose different things. Some of them it's consumer goods. Some of them it's startup businesses. Some of them it's, trading Bitcoins. In my world, it was real estate because while I was working, we were also investing. And honestly, the investments in real estate has always paid us significantly compared to what the job would do. The job is stability, but I think the growth and the luxury comes in our case from real estate investing. So I also had the opportunity now to basically come into the space full time. So I transitioned out of the career path and I came into real estate. Mm-hmm. Now, Cody, one of the things I absolutely love is I also love training and developing with people. And I've been able to find that when you really help people, it gives you a certain sense of satisfaction because, in the 9-to-5 environment, you're always limited by people. They can be very successful, but the paycheck is still limiting. But in this world, when you enable people and you coach people and you help them develop their financial success, it's unlimited. It's really their limitations are themselves. Mm-hmm. So you can literally, in the real estate world, buy one house or buy a 50-unit apartment building. It's really what you desire, you can get there. And for me, it's fulfilling to see when people achieve these things that they didn't think was possible. It's unbelievable, the smiles, the energy, the whole gambit of what they can do with that, right? You can make money like you wouldn't believe. For example, I'll share with you the very first property we ever bought 22 years ago. Back then we paid maybe $225,000. Today it's worth well over $1 million. Mm-hmm. Which RSP plan, which saving plan, which bank mutual fund will ever do that for you? Mm-hmm. So, this is the power for real estate. And this is why my wife and I, we've gravitated to real estate because we really like that side of the investment, So, stock markets and things like that, different approach for sure. But where we are concerned, this is the vehicle that we aim to promote. So real estate investing, we've come a long way into it now. Today, we're doing amazing things and things that I honestly thought would be a dream only. But when you start to understand the power of getting together, working with people, building a network, you can really do incredible things in your journey.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing your quick 1-minute synopsis. Because since you have extensive experience in sales and marketing, do you mind sharing with us when you were in the sales role for the spirit beverage business? What does that mean? What do you actually do when you say you're in your sales roles?
It's a typical consumer packaged good business, right? Except that you're under a lot of regulations because of the nature of the business. Mm-hmm. So you do have to still manage your sales and your marketing. On the last role, there was about 12 people in the team that was responsible for growing the Ontario market. Mm-hmm. As you could appreciate, the markets the Liquor Control Board is essentially your one customer, right? Mm-hmm. So you do have to get your suppliers, that could be your Tomasi wines out of Italy, your Capinetto wines. It could be spirits coming out of Quebec, like Spice Box whiskey, things like this. These brands are now what you represent. But in order to get into the market, you actually have to have a compelling reason and show the buyers of the liquor board why this product would work. So you're in that sales role, right? So the sales role is, here's the product, here's what we think we can do with it, here's the alignment to consumer. So what you present is you're tying in sales numbers, like we think we can achieve $2 million in sales in a year or $3 million, whatever that number looks like. Mm-hmm. But here is the marketing metrics that is going to drive it. Consumer, mm-hmm. Who is your consumer? How do you connect with them? Mm-hmm. What are some of the advertising mediums that you can do? Is it billboard? Is it print? Is it radio? Mm-hmm. Are you looking to do in-store promotional activities, right? Mm-hmm. All of this has to come together before you even get the product on the shelf. So you really mm-hmm. do spend an intense amount of time in the planning and development stage, right? Because this is critical. You don't have success until you get that agreement that they would list the product. Mm-hmm. And that in itself can take quite some time and mm-hmm. a lot of energy and effort. And there are no guarantees. But the beauty with this particular industry, because it's a closed industry, is when you finally get to that success, you feel like you won a lottery. with a listing. That's how powerful one listing can be. But that's when the work starts. Now you got to go and deliver. You got to prove everything you said that you can do it, right? So that's why you have an entire sales team, because again, as you could appreciate, store by store, the locations are intense. Like, for example, in Ontario, there's over 600 liquor control board stores. Now you have the grocery channel bringing in thousands of more distribution points. So you as a salesperson, you need to go and influence at that level now. You got to go now and sell to the managers, sell to the stores. What is it in your geography that is going to make sure that this product does well? What is it you can do as a representative of that particular brand to generate excitement in the store? You know, are you going to run limited time offers? Are you going to put up a little bit of a display, and maybe you put some nice mugs or some cool things that people absolutely love to take home? And remember, you have to work within the rules. Some people can be super creative, but maybe it's not regulated by the Alcohol and Gaming Authority, right? So you're working in a space where you have to be as creative as you can be and as aggressive as you can be to get the consumer's attention. Because at the end of the day, the retail shop is the retail shop. The consumer is coming there. That's who you're working for. You're not working for the liquor control board. There's the gatekeepers. You have to get to the consumer. And so that's why the focus as a business person delivering value is, how do we identify the ideal consumer? And then how do we get their attention? And that's where you look at the marketing metrics and figure out what you can do. But because of social media as well, there's a lot you can do now on that side, where you can actually build out following and share with people things that are cool and interesting. And you have the suppliers, wherever they sit, they could be sitting in Italy, South Africa, Australia, wherever it is. They can feed you brand information and unique propositions and exciting things that they're doing globally that you can now bring into this space and share with your dedicated consumer base. So I think the media side of it has really propelled the ability to do more. So it has to all tie in together, because the one thing is, you know, when you talk to the sales team, the salespeople as a whole, it's like, give us the funds for the sales because we'll make it happen at the store level. And the marketer is, no. We need share of mind. We need to always be visible. So we need that dollar to make sure that the awareness is there. And it's usually hard to measure, right? But they really do have to go hand in hand. And the power of marketing is to drive people to the sales. And so it's a collaborative effort. And when you're sitting on top at the bird's eye view, the philosophies are the same. You know, it's basically you have to make sure that you are tying in everything from the consumer level, from your sales force level, and delivering on quotas. Because liquor control boards, just so you know, as well as a lot of the most retailers, they have certain quotas. They want certain sales. That shelf space is valuable. So they're not keeping it for duds. So when you feel you won the lottery, when you get the listing, you actually now start to work, right?
Yeah.
And then the restaurants are a completely different chain as well, that you also have to be able to network. Again, highly regulated, as you could appreciate. So you have to, you know, sort of make sure that you're following the rules and the regulations. Because again, it's also an opportunity where people can touch and feel the brand, taste the brand. Now you can, because the metric is, if you taste it, you'll know for sure whether you like a particular product or not. And it's an investment. I mean, you can spend easily $30, $40, $50, $100, $200, depending on the product you're buying. So as a consumer, if it's new to you, you as the brand owner, you want them to get a try. You want them to know that, hey, this is worth investing in and putting on my shelf and sharing with my friends and family. Because, you know, Christmas is once a year, and everybody kind of shows up to the beverage alcohol business, even if they don't shop all year round, right? So the philosophy of business is very strong in this controlled environment, because we still have to figure out what is the consumer, or who is the consumer, and how do we connect our product to that consumer. So it's the same philosophy across the board. If now that we're in real estate investing, I'm actually working on doing a workshop at the end of the month where we are going to be doing business planning and development. And this is for the entrepreneur who's really coming into the space. Maybe they're coming from their jobs, they're transitioning over, they have a small scale business, and they're trying to do everything. But without the fundamentals of planning, you really cannot excel in your business because you will get caught up in the cycle of, I'm working in my business when you should be working on your business. You understand the philosophy there, right? To propel your business forward, you've got to be on it.
I have a team of 8 as well, just for my stock option coaching. So, but not all our audience probably have that. But the idea is that you got to focus on the most important task that brings you the revenue, and you have to outsource that or start delegating everything else. It's not sunshine and rainbow. You're going to run through a lot of turnovers. You got to pivot, but that's the idea how you can scale, right?
That's exactly it. And you're right. Like today you're 8, but usually you start maybe with yourself and then you add 1 and 2.
I make a lot more money when I was by myself, but you can't scale that way. I was working 16 hours, but that's how you know everything, but not good at anything really. I'm above average at everything, but you start plugging in people and you start paying more, your profit margins start going down. You're going to control that. Right. And, it's a whole gambit, right? It's definitely a fun journey. Now, when is the last time when do you quit this director job, right? You say you were in there for 15 years. When did you quit this job?
I was in beverage alcohol for 15 years. I left, this is my 3rd year, being full-time in this space now.
Do you see a difference because of all the social media, marketing, all that? Do you see a change in how they do sales and marketing now in that industry?
You mean from the consumer packaged goods industry?
Yeah.
Beverage alcohol as a whole? Yeah, you know what? A lot of people are realizing the power of the social media platform. Even for myself, honestly, before coming as a full-time coach and getting into the space, I did not really spend a lot of time on the personal side of social media, posting here and there. But now coming into the space, and especially because of the COVID situation, you realize that connectivity is incredibly powerful through the social media platforms, your Facebook, your TikTok, your Instagram, right? So businesses are gravitating towards it. Now you're seeing more and more postings and unique stuff. And sometimes you feel it's a void. I'm posting stuff and I'm not sure if people are seeing or how many people are seeing, because you sometimes try to manage it through, well, how many comments, how many following. But then when you talk to other people, they say, hey, I saw you doing this, or I saw that, I saw the other. And they did not click a like and they did not make a comment, but people are seeing. So the community now, I think COVID has really exploded the ability to connect to people globally. The coaching industry has really benefited a lot. When you look at people like Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Jack Canfield, these kind of guys, they are doing so much now in terms of their Zoom meetings and webinars, and they're connecting with literally millions of people from one room. Even with myself, a big piece of my marketing business now is through social media, right? So you do have to make that investment. You do have to connect with people, and it gives you an incredible platform. People now are looking, they're comfortable with Zoom, they're comfortable with scrolling through their Facebook and their feeds and the Instagram and things like that. So if you're an entrepreneur in whatever industry you're in, if you need to connect with consumers or you need to connect with investors, you do need to build that into part of your planning business now.
Do you guys run pay ads for your business?
At this point, it's all organic, not at the level of paid ads as yet, but I can see that that's part of the development plan. So once we hit a certain threshold, a certain number for the education component of our business, it's in the planning, but maybe into 2024 at this point.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so most of your business planning and development conference at the end of the month, you say is mostly focused on planning and development. And how does it kind of structure for our audience, like if they're interested?
Okay. So the way it's working is, if you are new to entrepreneurship, you're new to business, and you're at a scale where sometimes, you're working and then you get stuck. You're not sure on what you're going to do. Clarity is not there. How do I add the next $1 million to my portfolio? What is a good plan? What is a good strategy? These are things that if you actually can get away from your day-to-day, like one of the questions you should ask yourself is, when was the last time you took 3 days to really get into your business? Like, drop everything else, focus solely on your business, because this is now your bread and butter. This is the vehicle that you're using to get to financial freedom. If you're in that stage where you're stuck, you're not sure, you're in limbo, then the workshop is really there. For what I'm going to do in that workshop is really guide people, help them to understand where they are, define their business properly, understand where they want to get to. Then we got to look at where you are, where you want to get to, what is the gap. Then you have to do the gap analysis, which is basically, what is the gaps? How do I fill those gaps, or can I fill those gaps? And if you can, then you have a plan that you can get there. If you can't, then you need to revise the plan. So really and truly, it's all about working on your business and understanding where you're going to get it to. And you could be in the real estate space, you could be private lending space, you could be in consumer packaged goods, you could be in the trades business. The philosophies are the same. And the uniqueness with this is I'm treating each person as a separate business unit entity. So you're coming in with your own deliverables, your own goals, your own ideas and strategies. But the fundamentals of building a business, that is core. So it does not change no matter who you are. As long as we follow the fundamentals, and that's what I've been able to see and do, because as you could appreciate, big brands, they push very hard to know results before the end of the year, because when you're trading on the stock market, you need to know that you can't afford to miss plan, right? And there's always 3 criteria. You're either going to hit plan, you're going to miss plan. The question is by how much and what can I do about it? Or you're going to over deliver plan. So you can know that well in advance of closing your year or anything else like that. And the reason why you want to know that is so that you make adjustments during the year. The one other cool thing that I found, and this is, to me, this is a big piece of it too, is we spend the 3 days and we work together and we build out this plan. Great. We have a plan. Now you go out in the world. The core difference is you're going to be faced with challenges in life. You're going to be faced with family situation. You're running the risk that your plan could actually fizzle away. So in order to hold it all together, what we will do for the next year after this workshop is every month we will have a community call where we unpack how are you progressing, what's happening with your business, what's happening with achieving the plan, so that 12 months out for the full year after the workshop, we are going to be held accountable to each other to deliver plan. And I think that's a big piece of it, because I've seen a lot of programs out there, and the gap to me is they give you all the insightful information, but then you're kind of left alone, right? So if you really want to go strong and you want to grow really, really great together, is how you can do it. So that's the fundamentals behind the business planning and development workshop. I really want to take people that are sort of in that stage where they know they want to do a business, but they really are not totally clear on how that's going to unfold for them.
Yeah. So this is geared towards beginner entrepreneur thinking about it or planning it. Mitch can help you get the clarity. Of course, the gap analysis, very famous analysis, and a 3-day workshop. But also following that will be monthly accountability calls just to hold each other accountable. The most important thing for anything, or even real estate business, you need to make money unless you're raising capital, right? It's kind of chicken or egg first. Unless you're running like a venture capitalist, you can burn money like Amazon for 10 years. For not making money, but most of those are not running that. Small business, you need to make money up front. So you can start by a small concept, try to sell it to your friends and family. You're nice, but when you push for a credit card, whether they pull it out, it'll be a different case. If you try to sell to 10 friends and family, they won't buy. Maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe you need to revisit. Is that if you dump all the money, think I need to have a beautiful branding, beautiful website, whatever, but it's not going to get you anywhere. And most of people fail that way, especially in this time and world. You can just easily pitch it on your social media, whatever. Did anyone DM you? Nope. Okay. It's probably not a good idea. Or give it 7 times, pitch it 7 times, right? That's a good way to test it out, even before you spend any single money, right? A lot of time when I have back in the days when I do one-on-one coaching or courses, I throw it out before I create a course. I'm like, I don't have a course yet. Are you guys interested? You guys know my track record. Yeah. Okay, then I create a course, right? And then people ask for the next course, and I create the next course. People ask for mastermind. Then I get the money first, and I figure out the mastermind. What do you guys want, right? So, and that's a better way and lower risk way of doing things. And so after the planning, a good way is to just go out, get your first sale. If you can't get it, there's probably something wrong with it, period. That's a safer way.
That's exactly right. And one of the things I want to, as you're mentioning this is, as an entrepreneur, it's always good to have multiple sources of income. So you really need to frame a lot of things, and you need to spend that time in planning to figure it out. I love the approach because you're 100% right. Before you make the big investments, you got to test the market. And this is the beauty with social media. It actually allows you to go in and test the market to see if your idea or your concept is going to be worthwhile, because the same people that you're talking to, they're pretty much the same people that will be buying your product.
The first 100 will probably be them, right?
That's right.
Only for a while, right?
And really and truly, you need 100 people around you, and you can develop an incredible business, right? Fundamental of everything is, as you rightly say, it's the income. You really need to know, how is this income coming in? If you have your 9 to 5, if you're happy with that job is going to feed your investment business, whatever it is. In our case, it happens to be real estate, but you need to feed it until you can get to a point where it starts to deliver. It's grown in value. You can cash into it. You can refinance it. There's opportunities for sure. Another great way is you can create a real estate business where you are funding on the commercial side. And I don't want to get too technical to lose people here, but when I say the commercial side, it could be a commercial entity, a multifamily business, a plaza.
Hey, go deep on it. Go deep on it. Give us a real example. Go for it.
Okay. So let's say we're going for storage units. We're going for industrial warehouses. These sort of entities generate significant cash investments, cash flow back to you. In order to fund it, you don't necessarily need to have the money in your pocket. What you do need to have is a reach to people that can pull that together. Now, if you're doing that together, obviously you need to set up the right corporation. So simple corporation is a good starting point. It's probably one of the most cost-effective ways to get going, where the money comes in from the investor, goes into the corporation. So now the corporation has an asset of money that they can invest. Sometimes if you want to sort of reach out to more people, you can do what is called a general partner, limited partner setup, where the investors come in as a limited partner. So they are now protected with just exposure being the money that they invest. When you set up the corporation, they're all directors. So their exposure to liability is basically much wider in scope. So GPLP is a very common term when you get into the space that you'll realize. But once the setup is there, now you can raise funds. You talked about, capital and investing capital, like the Amazons of the world. They can lose money. It's okay. They'll make back money. But when you're going into the commercial ventures, now you can actually go after properties that are generating cash flow that you can pay yourself, which is important, because if you are coming into the space full time, you need a medium by which to start paying yourself. These are some of the exciting places that you can get into. However, you need to train and develop to get there. It's not just like, okay, I'm buying a residential house. By no means. It's very different, but it's not impossible, because there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people you can connect with who can get you there. But now suddenly you're buying a unit that could probably generate easily, several $1,000s, depending on the size of it per month, from which you can pay your either property management, your servicing, and pay yourself as a company, because your real estate company is now responsible for managing this and still have enough to give you a fund of money for the investor return. Because again, everybody wants to make money. So the vehicle and the strategy you choose, really, really important that you got to be aligned to it. So getting into the right vehicle or the right strategy when it comes to real estate is really important. And the funding fundamentals are quite different. This is where people can now realize, wait a minute, if I scale up, I can actually be able to pay myself, because this is now your job. So you can buy, let's say you're buying a 25-unit apartment building, because this is the space most people can go into, 10 to 25, 50-unit buildings. When you start buying a building of scale, you realize that the income coming out, you can actually pull money out of that to pay yourself. So if each building gives you $25,000 to $50,000 a year, and you have 4 or 5 of these under your management, that's basically replacing your income. And that's just on the income side. When you start to talk about the principal recapture, where the tenants are paying down that mortgage, that's equity building up. Then when you look at the annual growth in the property, even if it is at 2 or 3%, 2 or 3% on a few $1 million can add up quite quickly, right? And if the market explodes again, like it was doing at 20+%, you're in the money. And so it's over time. The one thing with real estate is you get rich slowly, you don't get rich quickly, right? It takes time to make
Depends,
the money.
Unless it continue to go up 20% every year, then you're leveraged 5 times or 3 to 5 times, then you're making a killing, but don't come in to expect that, right? Expect 2 to 5%, beating inflation, but you're leveraged 3 to 5 times, right? So
exactly. So you got that. And then
I'm a real estate investor as well, just so you know. It's not like I don't know anything. I'm a real estate investor as well. So I think a lot of audience are. So they can appreciate all that. The principal pay down, the cash flow is really just keep your lights on, but you make most of the money on principal pay down. And of course, some depreciation write-off, right? Not as good in the US compared to the US, and appreciation is really where you make your most money, especially for your commercial stuff, is really on the refinance side and how you structure stuff. That's where you make the big buck, but that's where you can get into big trouble if you don't structure it right. That's where you can actually lose big as well. Don't just go, I want to buy a 20-unit property, right? Start with something small and build your way up. And you'll learn a lot of lessons through it.
And that's the important thing that you just said there, because a lot of people come in and you get into shiny object syndrome, which is everything looks good and I want to do everything. And as soon as it comes in front of your desk, I'm doing that. You really have to refrain from that. This is why the planning piece is important. There's too many strategies and everybody's at a different level. So do not compare yourself against anybody else you're looking at. Compare it against yourself. Where am I now? How do I get to where I want to go? What are the development that I need for myself personally, as well as the business? So build it out step by step, because you will get there. Honestly, there's enough resources. There's enough education out there. There's enough people to connect with. But know that it's a job that you have to show up. You have to come up to the meetings. You have to do the meetups. You have to talk to people, network them, understand who's doing what. Because believe it or not, the majority of people love sharing their knowledge. They love sharing the people that they work with. Hey, you know what? I know a guy and here's his number. Give him a call. This broker can do really creative things on financing. So people do share. So you got to know, hey, if this is my business, you wake up every day, like you say, Cody, you hit that cold shower, because now you're in the mindset. You're framed to make things happen, because it takes an enormous amount of discipline for that cold water to hit your skin, Yeah. So with that in mind, I love the fact that if you're coming to the space, come prepared to actually work and build a plan. I found that even for myself, the planning piece really gives you the power. It enables you to see clearly the pathway for you and specific to you. And then you know how you're going to get there. Whether you're building momentum or not, you can actually see it, because you have the clear expectations now. What are my next steps going forward?
Cool. Before we go into our fire round, I want you to quickly touch on, because off record, you told me that you guys were getting into 12-unit single family in Hamilton, You're getting to 6 units Peterborough, converting a 5 to 8 units in Toronto. Can we pick one and tell us how do you are still buying in this environment, and what does the cash flow looks like? What does the strategy looks like? Can we just pick one? Pick one that you want to talk about.
Let's talk about it. So let's look at the Toronto market.
Cool. 5 to 8 unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Are you guys taking the roof off and then putting adding another floor and then putting a roof back on? Is that the strategy?
Correct. With the 5 unit, actually, the beauty with this particular building, and again, every building is unique. So you got to go figure out what is the right thing to do.
Yeah, we just focus on this one.
That's right. So in this particular case, you have the basement is actually a vacant basement. It's empty. The owners, they ran the building as is. Never really did anything significant to it. So it's a bit rundown, which is ideal. That's what you want. But there's enough headroom in the basement to actually add 2 extra units. Getting into the Toronto market is incredible by itself, simply because it's usually very high priced. There's usually no cash flow in it. And if we bought the property today and ran it today, it probably wouldn't be worth it because there's no cash flow. The price is really always very high. But if you can add 2 units to it, then suddenly you'll be coming into cash flow. So there is real potential now in this market, especially if you're looking at multifamilies. And why is that? There's a lot of people now pushed into the rental market that was going to be homeowners. The rates have just pushed them out of the market. So now you have limited. Housing market has not been solved. We still have a shortage. Now you have people competing for rental space, and they are bidding, they're competing, they're trying to get a place to live. So the rents are going up. And it's wherever you are located in Canada, typically you can increase the rents once tenants are turning over. Oh. You do have to put some TLC into your buildings, obviously. So, the apartments would need some upgrades, maybe the kitchen cabinetry upgraded, flooring, bathroom, nice fresh coat of paint. So you do have to have some capital to invest back into the building. But now when you take a 5 and you make it a 7, with the possibility of a laneway suite as well, that's potentially 8. I mean, that's quite significant, right? That is adding significant value to the property. And in 3 years or 5 years' time, you can actually go back to the bank and you can do a refi where you can pull a lot of money out. That money is now investable money that you can use into your next project. So it actually does make incredible value to look for properties now. If you're an investor, now is your time. If you're a consumer, now you're going to panic, you're going to be worried because you just have to find that resource, find that money. But on the investor side, the tenants are really where you're going to manage your numbers carefully, and then you're going to bring it together.
You basically mentioned that if you buy now with that 5 converting 5 to 8 unit property, the numbers won't work if you buy it now. Is that correct? If
you keep it as is. If you don't do the conversion, if you buy it as a 5 and you keep it as a 5.
But based on your number, if you do the conversion, do you think the number will work?
Oh, absolutely. With commercial, there is a tremendous amount of value. If you are getting something at a 3 cap, 3.5 cap, that cap rate drives value, right? Higher cap rates, if you're at 5, 6 cap rate, it brings cash flow. So with the properties, as you could appreciate, you're always talking cap rates to try and determine value. When you have a low cap rate, typically you have high value property with low cash. But you can take that situation and convert it into a high cap rate because of the addition of the properties. So now when you go to a higher cap rate, you actually have more cash flow coming out of the property. Low cash flow tends to sit in a primary market like Toronto, Vancouver, all major centers tend to have low cap rates. So when you buy it at that cap rate, but then you add units, you're literally increasing your cap rates from a cash flow perspective. From a market synergy, that cap rate is always going to be sold at a low cap rate. I know that can be confusing, but when it comes to the market dynamics, cap rates are twofold. One is you calculate it based on the building. The other way is the industry has certain cap rate expectations based on city. And so a Toronto market is always going to be sold at a low cap rate. But because you can add 2 units, let's say you add 2 units, easily a 2-bedroom in Toronto, you're looking at around close to $3,000. That's $6,000 a month. So if the numbers broke even at 5 doors, that extra 2 doors you put in, part of your depreciation, the accountant will take care of it. So literally you can add $6,000 to your bottom line every month. So that's the power of adding the doors. If you do the laneway suite, easily another $2,500, right? And your capex investment is going to get depreciated over time. So now you're really in the money. And if ever you need to sell that building, now you're selling it with 3 additional apartments. Your risk is the time to carry that building until you can optimize it. And so that's your biggest planning decision is how do I do that to optimize?
Yeah. Really appreciate you sharing that example. I actually know someone from F.I.R.E doing similar strategy. That's why I can ask specific question. I know there's definitely difficulties in the development charge went up 50%. And, all the building costs goes up and all. That's why I asked those questions, but we're going to leave it for another time. I'm not going to give you a hard time on this one. We're going to go into our fire round. We usually have 5 questions, but because our time are compressed, let me just ask you 1 to 2 questions.
Sure.
The first question is, if you lose everything right now, your $30 million under asset gone, your knowledge is still here, social media gone, everything else gone, you'll have experience. We drop you with $500,000. What will you do right now?
Outside of crying for a couple of days, I would get back on the horse because the power of real estate really is in your network. And like I say, when we were doing this on our own, when we were doing the 9 to 5, we were kind of investing and it was working out well. But now you have people around you. So if the deal is right and you have that network to find a deal, you just get back and do it again because we also understand that we're taking on risk and there is a real possibility that things could go south. But the knowledge and the network is really the core enablers that all of us need to build out so that if something like that does happen, you can get back and get moving again. It's the nature of business.
Assuming that your reputation is still intact and you did try your best to serve your partners and all that, of course.
Well, if you lose the reputation, my friend, you lose everything.
Yeah. If you're a podcast host, who would you like to interview at this point?
For myself, my podcast is actually focused on regular, everyday people doing extraordinary things and sharing their stories of how they went from, I kind of want to do something to doing something great. So it's pretty open, quite broad, but I do love getting those stories. So as once you get into my podcast as well, you'll see how is it that people have actually come into the space, and some of them have become incredible. Like they're doing massive land development. But when you ask them, what were you before? I was in the army. I was working for the government. I was a garage guy. Like incredible stories of how people can do this.
Chris Bucci.
Yeah,
I know you were talking about that. I know them. They're part of my student too. Cool. Where can our audience find more about you?
You know what? I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. My email, you can reach me at mitch@sv-investment.com. I'll give you all the links, but yeah I'm all over. Description. So
cool.
Yeah.
Again, thanks for your time, Mitch. It's a pleasure having you on and talk about your journey all the way from corporate, 15 years in sales and marketing and the planning and the spirit and alcohol business, all the way now to full-time coaching. And good luck to you running that business planning development workshop at the end of the month. Anyone is interested, reach out to Mitch for that. And all the best on your journey, Mitch.
Thank you, Cody. You know what? I really enjoyed meeting you, and I love the fact that you gave me this opportunity to share the story on the F.I.R.E podcast. I think what you're doing is incredible. And, continue the good work, my friend. Continue the good work.
Cool. Thanks.
All the links mentioned in this episode are included in the show notes. And if you love this episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple iTunes. The link is also included in the show notes. And we would really appreciate your help in spreading the word to more high income earners on how they too can maximize both their time and money.
Also, if you still haven't joined our High Income Earners Facebook group, you are missing out on High Income Earners community where we help each other reach our own version of FIRE.